Welcome back to the Nicardo Media House platform, Ryan. The first time you coming on my morning show, the Morning Insider. Really appreciate it. Good friend of mine. It's the rival time. It is the Reggae Boys versus the Yanks, man. Yeah, the US men's national team. How you feeling? Glad to be here again.
Oh yeah, buzzing. Really enjoyed our Copa America preview.
Yeah.
Didn't really go the way we wanted it to at all. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
didn't achieve our goals.
Yeah.
But maybe for both of us, it's turning the chapter onto something better, right? We both got new coaches, so
Yeah.
maybe big days ahead for us.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, man. I love this. I think in different from the US and Mexico play, their El Clasico. I think Jamaica is probably next their biggest rival, but maybe not so much now because you have Jesse March, coaching the Canadian national team. I think that's most of where the traffic shift. If the US is not playing the Mexico national team, Canada is probably their biggest rival. They share the borders, but once the game is in Kingston, Jamaica, my friend, there's always something spicy, juicy about this game. Can we cook the US men's national team? Like, how you feeling though about the Reggae Boys and John? Again, this was the semi-final game last campaign in Arlington, Texas, March. Just probably 8 months ago. But what's your thoughts though when you first witnessed that? Look, the Reggae Boys will play the US men's national team.
Yeah, I mean, just looking back at that Nations League not that long ago, I thought you
Yeah,
guys outplayed, I thought Jamaica outplayed the USA. I thought we got a little bit lucky, with that
yeah,
last minute goal to equalize. And then, we kind of took it away in the overtime. But I thought you guys kind of really deserved to win that
yeah,
game. So
yeah,
I think we should definitely not be underestimating Jamaica. It's a
yeah,
top team.
yeah.
I saw you've been doing really well under the new manager. So I think I think Jamaica will probably get a result. To be
Yeah.
honest, I
In
like.
Kingston?
Yeah, I think in Kingston you'll get a result. I like the USA to do well at home.
Yeah.
So it'll come down to the goals and the aggregate. But I remember in World Cup qualifying, you guys gave us loads of problems again.
Yeah.
I think it was a draw, the 1-1 draw, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Back
again,
then.
you guys had a goal that was, what was it? It was called off. It
Yeah,
was
that goal was chopped off. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so.
I think that's when they realized that VAR is needed in CONCACAF.
For sure, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
look, Big Poch, the Argentinian is in the house, man. How is the feeling around, the fan base of the US knowing that Big Poch is in the house? This is a you call it but a big signing for the US.
it's huge. I mean, he's a world class manager. He's managed some of the world's biggest clubs. Tottenham, of course, huge
Yeah.
club. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of hype around him. There was a lot of negativity, obviously, with Berhalter and how he played at Copa America the way we did. To get knocked out in the group stage is just not acceptable. So, there's a lot of hope with Pochettino, a lot of fanfare. He's a name people recognize.
Yeah.
I'm not too impressed with how we've started, to be honest. We played Panama last month, looked okay. We got the win at home,
You
but
played
didn't
shit at the
really.
back.
You know, I don't know yeah, the Pochettino, the passing around at the back it's suspect, man.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's where a lot of people concerned about Mauricio Pochettino team, especially. I don't think you guys have the personnel yet, to adapt to that playing style. But look, I think this is a statement signing for the US going into the 2026. Obvious, that's a big thing you guys want to conquer. Want to go at least two steps above where you guys go into the quarterfinals. A few cycles are back in the World Cup, but looking at it, 2 games in, he lost in Guadalajara, big win for Avi Aguirre and Rafael Marquez. His first competitive game will be in Kingston. Welcome to Jamrock, the home of Bob Marley. You understand? But looking at it, man, you saw the squad. 12 players, in the squad that were featured in the last time we played in Kingston in that World Cup qualifier. What you think about this whole 25-man squad that Pochettino name?
Look, it's a decent squad, but you're right in what you're saying about the not having the players in defense to really play out of the back. I mean, we're still relying on guys like Tim Ream. Huge fan of Tim Ream, but he's getting on a bit.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I mean, I wish we could, put him in a time machine and go backwards because he's a brilliant player. But and
yeah,
just the other center backs, no other center back has really stepped up. They all look quality on paper, but
yeah,
none of them have really stepped up for us. So the center back position is a worry. And then down the spine of the team, I mean, the goalie position has been shaky. I
yeah,
know people have been
yeah.
talking about even bringing back a guy like Brad Guzan because it's been so shaky recently, And yeah, but I mean, going forward, if we have our best players, we can get goals. Pulisic is on top form.
Top.
Um, at forward, we're missing a lot of players, but I do like the players that are coming in from the Mexican League. I do
Yeah.
rate them highly. They're grafters, they're hustlers. Cade Cowell, I rate hugely. Brandon Vasquez, a good player
Then
that
they
can get
have
you goals.
for Club America.
Good players, yeah.
Yeah, good players.
Um,
I think they're more of a. I think they bring the technical aspect in this squad. When you look at the boys played in Europe, the McKennie, the Pepe, the Tillman, they are the runners. The Christian, they are the runners. But when you look at the players that played in North America in the Liga, I mean, they going to bring the technicality towards this squad, and sharpen up this team around the edges. But I mean, when I look at it, Ryan. Team Weah will miss the first leg. The man that scored that only goal in the last time we played in Kingston, Josh Sargent just can't stay fit, injured again for Norwich City. Started the season really well. Adjurite injured in the dime of the game where he scored for Coventry. He's going to be out. Des obviously still recovering from that nasty ACL injury. Giorena, with a muscle injury for Dortmund. Carter Vickers, I don't know every time when they decide to call him up for Celtic, he always having a problem. Some niggling, he's out as well. Luca De La Torre, he twist his ankle for Celta Vigo. Chris Richards just recently back, for Crystal Palace featured on the bench, against Fulham. So it's uncertain where his fitness is at. He's going to be in the squad. Tyler Adams, big name. This is where everyone lips is are talking about Tyler Adams, Mauricio Pochettino, and Irioli, the Spanish coach for Bournemouth. They have all that of dialogue, trying to manage his workload. I mean, before we get into those missing players, where you see how Mauricio Pochettino have dealt with that Tyler Adams? Is he looking at the bigger picture and trying to let the best of Tyler Adams, probably heal himself, trying to get over the line and, make that body be a little bit more where he's at probably 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what he's trying to do with Tyler Adams. I think if you look at even just the last match we had in Guadalajara,
Yeah,
Pochettino, rightly or wrongly, has prioritized the players' health and fitness over the national team games kind of already. I mean, he sent home our crucial players for
yeah,
that Mexico game. I didn't think he respected the rivalry enough, but, he sent home Pulisic, he sent home McKennie, so that they could be fit for their clubs. And, it's up to whoever to decide if they think that's correct. I personally don't. But with Tyler Adams, he's been, struggling with the injuries for quite a while now. And I think that the right decision wasn't to call him up immediately. He's only one game back. So I've got no problem with it. But in general, I do think that I don't like how Pochettino seems to be prioritizing club over country at the moment. Because, even though they're just friendlies that we've been having up
yeah.
until now, of course, for us with the home World Cup, every game has got to be treated as competitive, friendly or otherwise.
Yeah, look, we kind of getting the same thing from Steve McLaren, knowing that look, this guy have coached the English national team, with the golden generation, and then he coached, in Netherlands, he was the assistant coach for the Eric Ten Hag. You're going to get these type of scenarios where they're going to make these decisions because they were, remember, before they were a club manager, so they understand the whole aspect of players coming back to their club fully healthy and having a very good relationship with the club and the national team program. So, they can having that good negotiation that whenever they need players, it won't be a big issue. I mean, but look, Adji right, Team Weah, I think that's going to be a big miss. We just spoke about Tyler Adams. Adji Wright and Tyler Adams, they probably came off the bench in that game in Arlington and made a huge difference. Gio Reyna was once that player as well. You know, how much you think, the US men's national team we're going to miss, especially at Team Weah, a player that on that right hand side.
He's a big miss. He's been pacey, although I've not been a huge fan of him recently, obviously, with the Copa America antics that has been going on. I'm hopeful that someone can step up on the wings.
Yeah,
We've got a lot of players that are due to prove themselves, but I do think, that first leg, it might not be what Pochettino wants to hear or what the
yeah,
USA players want to do. But the smart thing maybe would be to play kind of like, a CONCACAF team, kind of bunker in. You know, I think people in the US think we should be gun ho in all these away games. I think that kind of ends up being our downfall in a lot of
yeah,
them. It's just play
yeah,
it, play a bit more conservatively, let the game kind of come to you. And yeah, I mean, Tim Way, you're right, will be a bit of a big miss. But again, if we play smart, we should be all right.
yeah. Yeah, I think, if you guys really play well, but I just think that this US squad is a little bit, you know, lack the depth that on the bench. You could see the depth on the bench, when we played in Arlington, where you could brought, a Tyler Adams, you brought a Adji right off the bench, those players made the difference, big impact player. Now, when you look at it, you're going to be scratching your head where you're going to get the players to come off the bench to make that dynamic. But when you look at it, Christian Pulisic, you talk about him earlier, he's top man and farm, I look at his stats, Christian Pulisic, last season he had, 26 goal involvement in 51 games. Now 15 games, 11 goals involvement. He broke that long-standing 15-year record for Ricardo Kaka, the most goals and assists for a midfielder at AC Milan. You know, Not much so. He came out. I remember when we played in the World Cup qualifier in Kingston and he came off the bench to play the last 25 minutes. He was carrying a little bit of injury, so he's yet to prove himself in Kingston that he can be the man to carry. I remember in the past, living in Jamaica, kept seeing, the Jose Altidore, the Clint Dempsey, the Beasley, these players, time after time, come into the office and they make big men's performance. You think this is the time that Christian is fully healthy in his top of his game, the US will definitely need him, especially with a lot of key bodies missing, especially with his numbers. It's pretty impressive. Probably the best winger in this region.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Pulisic has been one of the few bright spots for our team for kind of a while now, probably since the Nations League. Copa America,
Yeah,
he was a bright spot, and he's been doing unbelievable things at AC Milan. If he can get us, it will be a lot of him carrying us if we're to get a result in Jamaica. Because as you're right, we are a bit thin up top, but he is so good. I mean, yeah, he'll probably be the best player on the field by far, and I think. Yeah, he's got all the abilities. If he can show up and have a big day for us, whether that's creating or now he gets in amongst the goals as well. I mean, yeah, he's our guy. He's the go-to guy. The ball, he should be getting loads of the ball. It should really go through him
yeah.
on Thursday.
Yeah, but when I look at the last three results, that we played the US in Jamaica, the last one, the World Cup qualifier, 1-1 draw, the other one, the US won 2-1, and then the other one we beat the US 2-1 in Jamaica, that was in 2013. It's always a close encounter with the US team. I mean, when you look at it, I know you said, it's going to be a very tough game for the US to get something because of probably the missing pieces. Pochettino first competitive games, the team is still finding that fine tune how he's going to keep the balance between the defense, the midfield, and the attacking third. Still yet to figure out things. Is it going to play a three at the back? Is he going to play a back four? We don't know, but I mean, your thoughts though on these very close encounters into Kingston?
Definitely. I think, as you're saying, the results are always close. I think going into last qualifier in 2021, I think it was
2020,
taken.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
2021.
it was taken a little bit too lightly. I think there's a little bit of a case where the U.S. takes Jamaica a bit too lightly, for whatever reason. I think in general the USA tends to be a bit disrespectful towards CONCACAF opposition. I don't think that's right. That's just what they do. So I think Jamaica definitely gets up for these games. USA kind of doesn't, and they should be. But yeah, I definitely expect it to continue to be close. I mean, I think if we go in with the mindset of, the same sort of mindset we went into Mexico, as though, we have beaten Mexico plenty of times. and we're just going to rock up into Mexico and get a result. And we got embarrassed. So
Mm.
I think if we go in with the mindset of, if Pochettino's just looking at the rankings and seeing that you guys are 61st, he's gonna, he can't, and that's the big worry with a coach like Pochettino, is that he's just not familiar with the region enough to really understand that there's no easy games in CONCACAF.
Yeah, especially away, and especially the US. Over recent years, the US have been struggling in the Caribbean. What happened, in Trinidad? You guys lost back to back in Trinidad. When you guys lost in the Nations League and also in 2018, something that you don't want to hear about. I mean, but look, but this is my opinion that I'm going to state. I'm picking some weakness that I see in this US roster. The right side. Obviously, no Sergio Des is in the right side. The Leandro Yedlin have passed his best. Joe Skelly, the man that from Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany. When we played the last time in Arlington, that was the side where Jamaica went through the most, trying to know that, look, this is probably the weakest section, especially Tim Rim on that side as well. Maybe a Miles Robinson, Mackenzie, who know a Chris Richards, but what do you think about the right back going into this game? Knowing that the Jamaica have quick wingers, especially a man like Leon Daly.
I mean, there's no doubt, you've got top wingers. I mean, that's what stands out when you look at the Jamaica roster is the forward line. But I have a lot of time for Joe Scally. I think he's a brilliant player. He was again one of the few bright spots of the summer. I mean, before all the Copa America disaster, we had that brilliant friendly against Brazil. And
Yeah.
people can say it was just a friendly, but Brazil played their proper team. We played our proper team. It was played at a really high pace. And Joe Scally locked down Vinicius Jr., who's one of the best in the world. So I have complete confidence in Joe Scally that, on his day,
Yeah.
if he's locked in, that we're gonna do just fine with that.
The weakest point, I would say, probably in the US team over the last couple of years now is the center back position, where Timur, 37 year old, still depending on a guy that once was a Fulham player, now he's in the MLS for Charlotte. I even saw a game in Charlotte. He was playing at left back. I don't know how his team playing at left back at one point. I mean, but when you look around him, it's loads of youngsters. Not much, but players that's always been around the squad. French players like Miles Robinson, Mark Mackenzie just leave the Belgian Pro League to join up with Toulouse. You have Chris Richards, very decent, quick centre back. Where you see, this centre back, rank amongst CONCACAF best peers.
Yeah, I mentioned it already a bit earlier, but yeah, I think we do struggle with the center back position. I still think we're looking to kind of get that pairing.
Yeah,
Tim Ream was definitely really good for us, especially at the World Cup. But yeah, I mean, as you said, he's kind of starting to trend downwards. I have huge respect for him, but that's just the reality of it.
yeah,
Yeah, as you said, Cameron Carter Vickers. I don't know what the story is there. I mean, maybe he wasn't getting a lot of playing time. Maybe that's why he stopped just coming. I'm not entirely sure, because you're right. It seems like he's not been going for the call ups recently. Trusty is a guy that I think should
Trusty,
get
yeah.
a little bit more of a look. He's never really gotten a look
Never
in
get
the.
really his chance. Yeah, I think, yeah.
I think so. I would be considering giving Trusty a
So
look.
who's the best centre back pairing? Is it you still would go with Tim Ream? He's a 37-year-old, or you go with the youngsters?
It's really hard to say at this point. We really don't know. I mean, we've not looked that great recently to really say,
Mhm.
okay, those guys have locked down a spot. I still think you got to go with Tim Ream.
Yeah,
Tim Ream's got to be in the game, especially it's a competitive game. So it's not like a friendly where you can say try out new players. So I think you got to have Tim Ream in there. And then, as I said, I would like to try like a Trusty in there.
yeah,
Mark McKenzie hasn't particularly shown well when he's gotten
yeah,
a chance. I
yeah.
want him to do well, but yeah, I don't know. Chris Richards again. He's just coming back into the
Just
squad.
coming back. We don't know how fit is he, how much minutes he can play. I think, to be honest, I think Poch will more save him in the game in Missouri. This is my strongest opinion on what I think Poch will do. Just coming back from a nasty hamstring injury. As you said earlier, the US coaching staff, the US as a whole takes CONCACAF teams, especially Caribbean teams, a little bit lightly. So they know how they judge how it feels in the Caribbean. They don't really like it that much. So they don't really want to put their best players on a pitch in the Caribbean, especially coming off of a muscle injury. So I think he will try to prevent him and save him for the second leg. But next point in the roster where I think Gia Reyna will be a big miss, in that number 10 position. I think that's the glue right there, trying to link up with number 9 and Christian on the left. I think that's where the triangle, which normally form in the US midfield with McKennie drifting out, those little late run-ins in the box, but
Mm.
the number 10 position, who you think, Aronson can really do a really good job. He's played really well for Leeds as well.
Yeah, I mean, Aronson, he's another guy that's hit and miss, but he's having a good season right now at Leeds. Cannot, be translated into the national team, hopefully. We really need him to do something like that, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else you could put there. Maybe Kenzen Dejas play that role. I mean, potentially he could. We don't really know at Pochettino. We just don't know enough about what he's going to do. I mean, could you even bring Pulisic into the center of the park? I mean, he's done that at times in his career. So, I mean, there's a lot that they could do there. I'm not too concerned about missing Gio Reyna. He's another one that's a bit hot and cold for us. I mean, we've had time to adapt to play without him, but yeah, hopefully big game for Aronson. Aronson, I think, was it Aronson that scored in the 2021?
What?
The
In
the last time USA
the,
played in Kingston. I think it was
no,
Aronson
it
that
was
scored.
Tim Weah. Tim Weah
Tim
scored.
Weah, okay.
Tim
Was
Weah.
did Aronson assist that? He might have done. He might have done.
I don't remember if Aronson played, but Timo was the one that got on the score sheet.
Okay, okay,
And
okay.
Mikel Antonio scored it for the Reggae Boys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He blasted that.
Yeah,
That
do you remember
was
that blast? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
was
I
that
think
was
was
some
Zach
tough
Stefan was the
bins.
goalkeeper. I think Zach Stefan was the goalkeeper. I
Might
think,
have
yeah.
been. Yeah.
Yeah, but looking at your attacking third, especially the number 9 position, Brandon Vasquez for Monterrey, Ricardo Pepe, for PSV in Eredivisie. Obviously, one of those players must start. But guess what? Both players have already scored on the Reggae Boys. Pepe scored on us in Aston at the 2Q Stadium, and Brandon Vasquez scored when we played the last time in the Gold Cup in Chicago at Soldier Field. He came off the bench to get that equalizer. I mean, when I look at it, you would say not much. You say Pochettino might favor these two number 9, but he must use these two players in the first leg until maybe Team Warrior come back and he can probably put him in the number 9 position. But I mean, where you see standing with that number 9 position, Pepe or Brandon Vasquez?
I would think that it's got to be Pepe. Pepe's the guy with all the experience. Playing in Europe. I think that's who they'll go with.
Yeah, yeah,
Pepe is like definitely a big fixture in the United States national team. So I can't see it. I would be shocked if Brandon Vasquez got the start. That would be a huge surprise to
yeah.
me. But who knows with Pochettino? I mean, he started Josh Sargent two out of two games last window, so you just don't we really don't know what we're going to get with Pochettino. Not to like deflect the answer or not answer your question, but we really
Yeah,
don't know. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
personally, I would actually like to see Brandon Vasquez because I think he's a grafter and he really goes for it. And when he came in against Mexico, I mean, the game was already kind of gone, but he was he's up for it. And
You
so
know what?
yeah.
Sorry to cut you, but you know what I think? I think Brandon Vasquez is more of an away number 9, where someone that's going to fight, someone that's going to bring the passion. He has that Mexican tradition around that. He know exactly how to get the job done in the away games. You understand? And I think he will go with Pepe. Why? Poch is coach many years in Europe, and Brandon. I don't know if you know much about Brandon. You probably heard come across Ricardo Pepe, in the past. So I think with potential, he probably go with Pepe, but I think Brandon Vasquez is that player that you want in a away game, especially coming up against the Reggae Boys team that defenders are very, very tough, going to bring their A game, going to be a lot aggressive, so let's see, man. Let's see who is going to bring. But look at the left hand side, with Anthony Robinson and Christian Pulisic. That is the strongest point of this US team, and I'm going to give you pretty much some of the stats. With Anthony Robinson, the last game that we played in Arlington, he had 147 touches. He have won 50% of his duels, both aerials and ground, and he had 5 recoveries. Christian had 96 touches. He created 4 big opportunities. He had 14 passes into the final third, and he had 6 fouls where he got in the final third as well. So that left hand side is where the US will go down most majority of the time, especially a team where is not going to be on the right hand side. A Sergio this is not going to be on the right hand side. They will probably play more true to that left hand side. That partnership with Pulisic and Anthony Robbins. You see that combination is going under Pochettino.
Yeah, I mean that's the top. Those are 2 top players, probably the 2 best players in the squad. So definitely, like when they're on, I mean that is the side you want to go to for sure. We'll see how it looks, but definitely, yeah. If we could play to that, get Robinson on. Robinson's kind of been struggling a little bit in a USA jersey as of late,
Yeah.
but yeah, get him going on top form. Started out the season really well at Fulham, so I feel good about that side.
Yeah, the midfield, I have to say this, man, McKennie, if the Reggae Boys can stop this player, I think we had like probably 60% winning the game already. McKennie, he is the one that going to pull all the strings in this game. If McKennie is good, Christian Pulisic will more likely be 100%. By McKennie playing a very good game, it takes off a lot of stress off Christian. It takes a lot of pressure off Christian to know that look, McKennie is doing his job in the midfield. Look, over the years, he's been the fighter, he's been the aggressor, he's been the one that coming up with late goals as well. The goals, main player, top player, but he's going to have to pull this midfielder, especially with Johnny Cardoza. If Pochettino will stick, Yunus Musa in the midfield, we don't know who he's going to play, but McKennie in the midfield, very crucial for the US.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, last window we started Aiden Morris and Gianluca Busio both games. So, I
Yeah.
mean, are those going to be player? I mean,
So,
did he like those performances enough that, you know, could he start those guys in the midfield?
yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a given that Johnny plays, despite, that he's, in La Liga, a big time player there, because
Mhm.
again, he looked poor in September.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Aiden Morris and Gianluca Busio could be big. I mean, McKinney again had a poor summer for us. It's
Yeah.
it's a really
Struggling
strange.
with injured, to be fair,
It,
struggling with injured.
it's a very strange situation with McKinney at the moment, where he's having a brilliant season at club level, and I just don't think he's been at it with the USA recently. So look, I'd be really interested to see. I don't think it's a given that any of these players, play huge chunks of time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Aiden Morris and Busio again getting
You
lots of minutes.
think, with all the speculation that was going on, with Greg Berhalter, at one point with no coach, if all these things played in the under, knowing that look, there's not a real leader in the dugout for the US men's national team. No, Big Poch is in the dugout. He know how to get the best out of young players, And I don't know if McKennie is a young player, but he's still at that age, mid 20s, where Pochettino, that's the age group Pochettino like to work with. I think, Pochettino can get the best out of him.
Look, I mean, I agree. I think one of the big things with us has always been, with the USA, has always been scapegoating the manager. Recently, I think Berhalter wasn't a perfect manager by any means, not a top manager, but I think the players for years have kind of been getting away with just not really cutting it. Been a lot of excuses about them being young and inexperienced. They're no longer young and
Yeah,
inexperienced, so
yeah.
I think if the team doesn't do well, there's only so much blame I'm willing to start putting on Pochettino, because I think some of these players have been getting away with just not being good enough. And people can rabbit on about how good they are at club level, but they just don't seem to have that fight in them when they're playing for USA. So, as I said, I mean, if McKinney does well or doesn't, I mean, that's on him, I think, not so much
Yeah.
Pochettino.
I mean, look, we are coming to the end of this side of the show.